Hi friends, this is the third and last part of my presentation on the Bombay Land Revenue Code, and though I ended the last one at an inconvenient place, I'll quickly pick up from where I'd left off. In 135D and all those numbered and lettered sections, one section which I forgot or did not mention was section 135L, which says that no suit shall lie against the government or any officer of the government in respect of any claim to have an entry made or any record or register that is maintained under this chapter, or to have any such entry or omitted or amended, and the provisions of section 13 shall not apply to any decision under this chapter. And the correctness of the entries shall be inquired into, and the particulars thereof revised by such revenue authority or officers as may be prescribed in this behalf. In other words, you cannot, despite the amplitude of section 9 of the Civil Procedure Code, you cannot call into question any revenue entry in a civil suit. Now the implication for this is pretty far reaching, and it is this, that having gone through the hierarchy of authorities, Mamlatdar, Deputy Collector, Additional Collector, Collector, Special Secretary, the Revenue Appeals, after that, then there is nothing else you can do about it, unless you challenge it in the High Court by way of a writ petition, which, as I said, is very convenient for young, briefless lawyers, because these small matters give them some initial feeding in terms of cases which they can file. So 37L is an important section because it gives the hierarchy, it tells you what appeals can be done and what suits cannot be filed. With this, now I come to the subordination of the revenue authorities. Section 8 deals with collector, 8A deals with additional collector, and 9 deals with the assistant and deputy collectors. This is the hierarchy: deputy, assistant, additional, and collectors. The appeals which start from the Mamlatdar and deputy collector will go to the assistant or additional collector, then to the collector, and then to the special secretary of the state of Gujarat. That is to say, the final appeal will lie before the state of Gujarat. That all these provisions we find in chapter 13, starting with section 203 of the Act. Now section 203 of the Act says this. It's a generic section, gives a generic right of appeal, and it says it goes to the next higher officer. So it reads like this: in the absence of any express provision of this Act or any law for the time being in force to the contrary, an appeal shall lie from any decision or order passed by a revenue officer under this Act or any other law for the time being in force to that officer's immediate superior, whether such decision or order may itself have been passed in appeal from a subordinate decision officer's decision or not. Very action-packed section. Appeal will lie from junior to next senior. So that problem is solved. Appeal will lie under order passed under this Act or any other Act. So if a revenue officer passes an order under another Act, an appeal will still lie to that revenue officer's superior revenue officer under this section of the Land Revenue Code. And thirdly, it says that there will be an appeal from an order passed in appeal also. This is very important because usually statutory appeals are limited to 1 or maximum 2. But here there are appeal upon appeals, and they are given, the revenue authorities are given this amplitude to hear an appeal against an order passed in appeal by their subordinate authority. Now if you see sections 205 and 206, I am mentioning these because they are important for the purpose of practitioners. 205 says the appeal should be filed within 60 days if the decision or order complained of has been passed by an officer inferior in rank to the collector or superintendent of survey, and if it has been passed by the collector or superintendent of survey, the appellate time is 90 days. In section 206, the power to condone delay has been granted. Now these are very basic sections, but from a practitioner's point of view they are important. Therefore please keep it in mind that when you file the appeal, it should not be time barred. Then another important section is section 209, scope of the powers of the appellate authority. What can the appellate authority do? So the appellate authority can either annul, reverse, modify, or confirm the decision or order of the subordinate officer, or he may direct the subordinate officer to make any further investigation or to take additional evidence as he may think fit, or he may himself take additional evidence. And it shall not be necessary for the appellate authority to record reasons in writing when the appeal is dismissed summarily, when the decision or order appealed from is itself a decision or order in appeal, and when an appeal is made to the state government under section 204. Mercifully I say, the reasons are always given, and nobody says that I will not give reasons and reject it by a one-line order. Mercifully I say, because if these provisions are followed in letter and spirit, then we'll never know what is appealed to the appellate authority. So the need to give reasons, even otherwise the Supreme Court has stated, is implicit in any order which is liable to be challenged in any court of law. And these orders are frequently challenged in the High Court. So the need to give reasons is there, and authorities always give reasons. This is what I have to conclude with, but I'll just leave you with a teaser. If you remember from the first lecture, the Mamlatdar was exercising delegated powers delegated to him under the Act. Now the proviso to section 12 of the code says that the Mamlatdar's orders will be subject to the provisions of section 13, which we have just read, that lower to higher an appeal will lie. But it has been laid down by the Supreme Court in times without number that if an order is passed by an officer A as a delegate of the officer B, then officer B, though superior, cannot sit in appeal over the decision of his delegate, because it is as if he is sitting in appeal over his own decision. So, in matters of 37(2), where ownership is decided, the order of the Mamlatdar is frequently and wrongly challenged before the additional and deputy collectors and the collectors, which should not be done, because a collector is himself the source of that power which has been delegated to the Mamlatdar. So though the Mamlatdar is lower in rank, appeal should not be heard by the collector, is what I believe. And one learned single judge of our court. So a decision of the learned single judge is the subject matter of appeal, of which the hearing has been concluded. Decision, as I said, is awaited. But our case is that under the Bombay Revenue Jurisdiction Act 1959 or thereabouts, section 9 says an order passed under 37(2) is exclusively to be decided by the Bombay Revenue Tribunal, in our case the Gujarat Revenue Tribunal. If that be so, then how do the provisions of the proviso to section 12 overcome that? Now, as far as providing appellate jurisdiction, remember, the Bombay Revenue Tribunal Jurisdiction Act is a special law, and the special law will prevail over the general law, because the special law decides the forum, and the special law is prescribed that the forum for deciding an appeal against an order passed by a Mamlatdar as a delegate of the collector under section 37(2) must alone be the Gujarat Revenue Tribunal. This is the conundrum which faces the division bench. The state government would say no. By the proviso to section 12 added in 1981 or 82, the orders of the Mamlatdar are also subject to appeals under chapter 13, and this conflict is being worked out, I hope soon, by the Honorable First Court, where this matter is pending. I had an excellent time making these presentations to you, and if I don't feel too lazy or the lockdown doesn't suddenly open up, I'll try and do some more on the Tenancy and Agricultural Lands Act. Until we meet again, enjoy your solitude. It is a gift available very rarely in these modern busy times. Bye.